Life was never meant to be understood in a straight line. In youth and early adulthood, we search for patterns that promise certainty. If I do this, then that will follow. Yet the years teach otherwise. Life unfolds more like a long mountain path, winding, doubling back, disappearing into fog before revealing a wider view. The years you lived did not simply pass. They layered themselves, season upon season, like rings inside an old tree. Each ring holds a drought survived, a storm endured, a summer of growth. What once felt like detours, careers that stalled, relationships that ended, dreams that changed shape, now reveal themselves as deliberate paths, preparing you for understanding rather than applause. The confusion of earlier decades begins to settle into coherence. You see now that even the chapters you would not choose again taught you what no success ever could. This is the revelation of this season. Nothing was wasted and nothing was accidental. As Carl Jung once observed, the afternoon of life must also have a significance of its own and cannot be merely a pitiful appendage to life's morning. With the gift of years comes a quiet authority. It is not the authority of titles or recognition, but the steady presence of someone who has seen enough to know what endures. You've lived long enough to recognize truth without needing to announce it. You've watched bold promises fade while simple acts of integrity remained. You've seen how quickly applause dies and how slowly character compounds. Experience teaches what no lecture can. That success without meaning feels hollow, while hardship anchored to purpose becomes bearable, even ennobling. Time refines judgment the way fire tempers steel. It burns away the need to impress, leaving behind the desire to be genuine. This wisdom does not seek attention, it commands respect through calm certainty. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Decades of living have colored yours with discernment, restraint, and depth that only time can provide. At this stage of life, opportunity no longer arrives dressed as ambition. It arrives as clarity. You are no longer driven by the need to prove yourself. You've already proven enough simply by enduring. Identity has been tested, reshaped, and settled. Now, contribution becomes the quiet calling. Freed from illusions that once consumed energy, status, comparison, restless striving, you can act with intention. You choose where to place your remaining effort, knowing effort itself is precious. The central question shifts. It is no longer, what can I gain? But what can I complete, clarify, or pass on? Perspective becomes power. Like a craftsman who knows which strokes matter and which are unnecessary, you work with economy and purpose. Viktor Frankl captured this truth when he said, when a person can't find a deep sense of meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure. You are no longer distracted. You are oriented. This clarity naturally leads to a legacy moment. The legacy you've been building, often without realizing it, can now be shaped with intention. It may live quietly in people you've influenced, children or students who absorbed your example, colleagues who learned steadiness from your presence. It may live in work left unfinished, ideas half-formed, values practiced but never articulated. The decades behind you have prepared you for a different kind of creation, one rooted not in speed, but in significance. Like a farmer who understands that harvest comes after long patience, you recognize that this season is not for frantic planting, but for gathering and sharing what has matured. As Aristotle reminded us, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Your life, seen whole, carries meaning far beyond individual achievements. This is also where many come face to face with mortality, not as a threat, but as a clarifier. Knowing that time is finite sharpens what deserves attention. There is urgency here, but not panic. Purpose replaces pressure. You understand that fewer years ahead do not mean less value, they mean greater concentration. Just as the setting sun casts longer, richer shadows, this stage of life deepens what it touches. You've earned the right to say no without guilt and yes with conviction. You see more clearly what the young cannot yet grasp, that peace is not found in accumulation, but in alignment. Albert Einstein expressed this wisdom simply: not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted. And so the journey turns inward before it turns outward again. Reflection becomes a form of preparation. What you have gathered, lessons, failures, resilience, compassion, asks now to be given meaning. This inward turning is not withdrawal, it is integration. It is the moment when scattered experiences are woven into understanding. From this place, contribution flows naturally, without string. Bringing the journey full circle does not mean returning to where you began. It means understanding why you began at all. It is the quiet satisfaction of coherence, of seeing how the early questions led to later answers, and how the long road shaped a voice worth hearing. In this season, you stand as living evidence that survival itself is an achievement. You have adapted, endured, learned, and remained. The wisdom imperative now becomes clear. What you have learned is not meant to remain locked inside you. The world, your family, your community, even strangers you may never meet, needs the steadiness your years have produced. As Seneca wisely noted, life is long if you know how to use it. You know how to use it now. This is not the closing of a book, but the completion of a chapter written with intention. You are not starting over. You are bringing everything together, every triumph and trial, into something whole. The circle closes not with exhaustion, but with understanding. And in that understanding lies a quiet power. The power to live these years not loudly, but meaningfully, leaving behind not noise, but wisdom. With the wisdom of experience, understanding changes. You no longer see life as a race to be won, but as a craft to be mastered. In earlier decades, speed mattered. How quickly you could achieve, how much ground you could cover before others did. Now, precision matters more than pace. The years have taught you that what truly matters endures quietly. Relationships that survived strain, integrity upheld when no one was watching, moments of courage that never made headlines, and lessons learned the hard way. From this vantage point, the past is no longer a burden to carry, but a foundation to stand upon. Perspective becomes your advantage. You are no longer fooled by what once distracted you. Empty praise, shallow success, borrowed definitions of worth. As Socrates reminded us, the unexamined life is not worth living. You have examined yours, carefully and honestly. This season is harvest time, not merely of achievements that can be listed, but of insight that can only be felt. You have gathered discernment, the ability to tell substance from spectacle. You have gathered patience earned through waiting when rushing would have ruined what mattered. You have gathered resilience, proven by standing again after losses that once felt final. The harvest of your years includes mistakes that taught humility and victories that taught restraint. You now understand that failure in one decade can become wisdom in the next, and that triumph without perspective can leave a person empty. Even the chapters you once questioned, those years you thought were wasted or misdirected, now offer nourishment. They taught you empathy, caution, and depth. Nothing you lived is empty. Everything contains value when viewed through understanding. As Friedrich Nietzsche observed, that which does not kill us makes us stronger. Strength, you have learned, is not loud, it is lasting. What naturally follows harvest is contribution. A field does not gather grain simply to admire it. It gathers so it may feed others. The same is true of a life. The world does not need you to start over. It needs you to speak from where you stand. Your particular combination of experiences, successes weathered, losses endured, Compromises made and refused cannot be replicated. Only you can offer what your life has shaped. Perhaps this looks like mentoring someone who reminds you of your younger self, not by giving answers, but by asking better questions. Perhaps it looks like creating something meaningful without concern for recognition. Perhaps it is simply embodying steadiness in a world addicted to noise. Your wisdom serves a greater purpose precisely because it is seasoned. This is not obligation, it is calling. As Albert Einstein once said, only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile. You now understand this not as theory, but as lived truth. Completion at this stage is not about closing doors, but about creating wholeness. Many people fear unfinished dreams, interpreting them as evidence of failure, but wisdom reframes them. Unfinished dreams are not indictments. They are invitations to integrate what was learned rather than mourn what was missed. Some dreams were meant to change shape. Others existed to teach you discipline, humility, or discernment rather than to be fulfilled exactly as imagined. Bringing your journey home means aligning who you are now with everything you have lived. It is the deep satisfaction of coherence, when inner values and outward actions finally meet without contradiction. Like a master craftsman stepping back to see the completed work, you recognize that the beauty lies not in perfection, but in integrity. Aristotle captured this when he wrote, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit." You have built habits of thought and character that now define you more than any title ever could. The lasting impact of this season lies in intention. You've earned the right to decide what endures and what fades away. Earlier in life, much of your energy was spent responding, reacting to demands, expectations, and pressures that felt urgent at the time. Now you choose deliberately. The years ahead, however many they may be, carry the power of focus. A narrowed horizon does not weaken purpose, it strengthens it. Like sunlight concentrated through a lens, intention gains force when scattered concerns fall away. Choose to pass on what matters. Choose to shape meaning from memory rather than regret. Stories shared honestly become guidance. Silence used wisely becomes strength. As the Roman philosopher Seneca wisely noted, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. You no longer wish to waste what remains. There is also a quiet freedom in this stage of life, the freedom of having nothing left to prove. You have seen enough to know that approval is fleeting and that self-respect endures. This freedom allows you to speak plainly, to love more generously, and to act with courage unburdened by illusion. The younger generations may move faster, but you move deeper. You understand consequences. You understand trade-offs. You understand that wisdom is not knowing everything, but knowing what matters most. In a world that often mistakes novelty for progress, your steadiness becomes a form of leadership. As the circle nears completion, life asks a different kind of question. Not, how far can you go, but how clearly can you see? Clarity, you've learned, is the true reward of long living. It allows you to forgive yourself for what you did not know then, and to honor yourself for what you endured. It allows you to bless the road rather than resent it. The chapters you've written, some joyful, some painful, have brought you here to perhaps the most important chapter yet. This is the chapter where wisdom is shared without force, where meaning is chosen without haste, and where your life stands as something whole. In the end, bringing the journey full circle is not about stopping. It is about arriving at understanding, at peace with the path taken, and at confidence in what you now offer the world. Your life, viewed in its entirety, is not a collection of random moments, but a completed arc. And in that arc lies your legacy, not something you chase, but something you live.